Okay, so my name is Dania. I am from Sheffield Hallam University. Today's talk, I am going to talk about the evaluation that I had done at my institute. This was about 6-7 months in the making. I'm just about publishing the final findings and things. So some things are a little rough, but they are findings as they are. So in the presentation, I am going to go through the evaluation overview, some of the key findings. I'm not going to include everything because that would be death by PowerPoint. And then some of the implementations that we've done so far this year, and also the recommendations for anyone who's hoping to transition from Blackboard Classic into Blackboard Ultra, or potentially changing to a completely different ELE. So just to provide a bit of context, Sheffield Hallam University, we're a small university. We've got about 34,000 students, and the VLE of choice we have is Blackboard. The university has set targets for us to transition into Ultra by this academic year. So everyone's got Ultra now, kinda. So any new modules that are created for this academic year, so the one that's just started, is basically going all Ultra. So no going back to Classic, everyone's going to Ultra. Last year, 2 departments volunteered to go first, and I put volunteered in quotation marks because once they volunteer, they can't go back. It's kind of like, that's it, you're doing it, you can't go back. And us, as part of the digital learning team, we are supporting this transition. So this provided us with an interesting opportunity to kind of learn and develop from the 2 volunteered departments, and to smooth out any issues or anything that has come up that potentially could have a substantial impact on the university as a whole. It would be easier to kind of like go through it in more detail and smooth out any kinks and so on. So for the evaluation, I managed to get a bursary for 2 students to kind of help me with the evaluation process. And it came at a really good time because they were able to provide, they got really good understanding and good opportunity to kind of contribute to the evaluation from the very, very beginning. So from the ethics approval process, setting objectives, all the way through collecting data and things. So they got a really nice opportunity to actually see how to conduct an evaluation. So we had the evaluation went through approval back in August in 2023. Yeah, and then we had the ethics approval in March earlier this year. So for our objectives, an evaluation is quite simple. We wanted to know what are the benefits, what are the negatives, what kind of things we didn't think about that potentially came up, so any blind spots, and any areas that we needed to really focus and work on to kind of get it right once the entire university switched to Ultra. So in terms of some of the things that Blackboard had mentioned, Ultra is supposed to ease everything and it's supposed to be super accessible, and it's been designed with mobile use in mind. So we put these in the objectives. It was like, okay, so you're claiming these things. We want to make sure that we can try and test if these are actually, if switching to Ultra is actually a good thing. So for the method and sample size, so what I did for the evaluation is we are a very small team in the digital learning team, and so we wanted to make things as easy as possible, as smooth as possible, so that it's not a headache for us and also for the academic staff. It's not too much pressure on the students as well. So we were provided with an opportunity where we had a small sample size from the university. So we had 1,480 students, and we had 205 staff members. We also identified that it was only 91 module sites that were converted to Ultra. So in terms of the online service that we did, we decided to choose mixed methods because we didn't want everything to be quantitative. We wanted to get some user feedback as well. We used the JISC online survey tool. It's considered as a gold standard for conducting online surveys. And some of the themes that we had focused on were navigation, usability, assessment and feedback, and the guidance and support that we did. To triangulate the information and the responses that we got from staff and students, we also looked at some quantitative reports. So we looked at the accessibility reports by Ally, and we also looked at the mobile use using the anthology Illuminate, previously known as Blackboard data. So I'm just going to go through some of the key findings. This is a very dense slide. I am not going to go into too much detail here, but in essence, so on the left-hand side, you've got a box of positive trends. So these are in relation to the navigation and also in terms of the supporting guidance that we offered staff members. So overall, it was a really nice projection. A lot of people found that in terms of like transitioning from classic to ultra, it was a breath of fresh air. They found that the support that we provided was quite timely and it was generous. And they felt supported throughout that transition period. The areas of difficulty came up when it came to grading and assessment. So we had set up the assessments for the staff members, so nobody had to worry about creating assignments. It came a bit of a difficulty when they had to use a gradebook, which is the new adaptation from Grade Center and the MyGrades tool for the students. So it was a bit of a hurdle that they had to go from. You can see that actually it does have quite a lot of positive responses, but the areas of difficulty in relation to the rest of the survey, these were the ones that kind of came up as the main pain points of the survey. So staff were, this is where we found majority of the queries came in. So things to do with the rubrics, things to do with how gradebook looked, and how different it was as well. We also noticed that there were quite a lot of underused tools within Blackboard that people had not, maybe they couldn't find, or maybe they didn't have enough time to explore, or perhaps they didn't have enough knowledge or understanding of how they could do that with Blackboard Ultra. So things like the accessibility report, Ally, embedding content like YouTube videos and Padlet and other things, using the discussion boards and the quiz and tests. And this is exemplified by the large grey section in this graph. As for the student surveys, so again, with the positives, they found navigation to be really good. And they also found keeping up to date with announcements and things to be relatively simple and easy. They also found submitting assignments to be straightforward. The areas of difficulty, so they found that finding certain material was kind of difficult, and they found inconsistencies in how their module was laid out. So structure was a big element that lacked for the two departments that had gone to Ultra. They also found like there was little bits in there that was a bit slower to navigate and find, and they were really calling out for things like color and imagery to kind of enhance where to find things. In terms of accessing marks, there was a lot of complaints about how can I get this, what is this tiny feedback icon that I have to click? They often go into gradebook and they have to click a tiny little icon to get their feedback, and it wasn't very obvious to the students. So these little things were fed back to Blackboard eventually. Things that were underutilized from a student's perspective were things like, again, discussion boards, things like participating in groups, and also alternative formats. So, thinking about mobile use and how Blackboard has been designed with mobile devices as the main form which students are using now. From the survey, so the top chart, we found that there was about 24% of students who really struggled with mobile use. But if you can actually see from the responses, it was like about 90% of students had used mobile devices to access their Blackboard sites in this particular Ultra module site. And one of the qualitative comments that kind of summarizes a lot of the comments that we received was that it was frustrating to use that, you can't access everything. They often had to rely back on using a laptop. And then we kind of triangulated that data to see, did they misunderstand this particular question, whether or not, did the data actually, the quantitative data, the Blackboard data, did it match the responses that we got from the survey? So from there, we found out that 52% of user interactions, student user interactions, were on mobile devices, and we kind of broke it down. This was a really tenuous process, and we broke it down based on like what they've used in terms of what we called mobile devices, and then other platforms. There was no way of breaking it down any further than this. And that's one of the limitations of the report. In terms of accessibility, this was quite interesting as well, because we thought maybe the students misunderstood this. We thought that maybe just a small fraction of students would be using alternative formats. As you can see from the top graph, students, about 74% of students had used alternative formats. So from the 90, and then we correlated that with the accessibility data from Ally. We found that alternative formats was frequently used, and there was actually quite a heavy download rate as well. About 1,000 difference from the alternative formats when they interacted with the tool. In terms of staff, 50% of staff mentioned that they had not used the Ally feature, and we wanted to kind of find out exactly what happened from the Ally reports. We found that in the 91 modules that we had, the Ally tool was only opened 8 times, which is really stark. And those 8 times were only 4 module sites out of 91 module sites, which again is really shocking. It's really horrible. In terms of fixes, only 73 out of 6,000 fixes were made using Ally. So, I mean, it kind of indicates there needs to be a bit of an awareness, a bit of recognition from a staff perspective, but also kind of to meet what the students need. Upon further digging around, the 73 fixes, actually none of the students downloaded those elements, which was even more shocking. But I mean, looking overall, from the 91 module sites, their average score was 74%. In terms of like, so Blackboard has an Ally kind of score as in like 100% is perfect, 0% is absolutely poor. So 74% is actually kind of good. So in a way, when staff put content onto the Ultra sites, it was kind of making them a little bit more accessible for people. But then again, we need to dig deeper to kind of find out if this is the case. So in terms of implementation, we've had department-specific Ultra templates put in place in response to what the students want and in response to how the staff were frustrated with working with a blank canvas. So they wanted a bit more structure and consistency. We also had department-specific Ultra timelines. This year we had a hard deadline for this academic year, so everyone had to switch to Ultra. But we gave the departments flexibility because everyone had a different, were in different stages in terms of like assessment, grading, teaching schedules and so on. So everyone had a bit of a different academic calendar. So the Ultra timelines kind of shifted a little. Some people started switching to Ultra from January. Some people needed a bit more time, so they started in March. Other people a little later than we would like, back in May as well. So we gave people different timelines, and we communicated with them the workshops, training sessions that we were holding. And throughout that entire time, we also had regular drop-in rooms. So we were doing from 9 till 5, and this has been a really successful thing that we've been doing since lockdown. So this is something that the staff absolutely appreciate and love, and it's very busy. A lot of people do come in and do use us, asking for help and support from day-to-day kind of things to building new content and now it's more focused on Ultra. We also are in the midst of just releasing a new learning and teaching website. So this has come from trying to update and trying to streamline a lot of the processes that we had in the past. So a new learning and teaching website is going to come with a lot of the Ultra guides to kind of encourage that self-help element as well. So I just wanted to show you how, like the before and after. So on the left-hand side, you had the first agreed template with the department. It was very, very basic. You only had like the module information, the quality management side of things, and then you had the assessment folders. That's all you had. And then staff had to build the weeks, so they had to build other folders and so on. And often at times this created great discrepancy between different modules looking differently. The one on the right is a refined and more kind of structured approach to how to deliver content. We've come up with a template that has been agreed with each department, so everyone's got similar structure, but some areas had like other elements like additional support for students, like maths help, cafe and things like that, that we've also integrated into that. So each department would have a template that was representative of what they wanted from the students. So in terms of recommendations, anyone hoping to switch to between different VLEs, we recommend having a standardized template. From our results, we definitely need to focus on accessibility, awareness and training. Also building community building strategies, things like how do you integrate forums, discussions, and creating an online presence of support, and then also building an awareness on online quizzes and tests, and also adding student guidance.
Thank you very much. We'll take questions as a whole at the end.